Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm taking you along with me to a place called Olof Fors. It's an ironworks about 40 minutes from where we spend our summers up in the north of Sweden, and I thought it would be fun to just take you around and show you what it looked like. Historically, it is quite common that when you had an ironworks that a community was built around the ironworks for the people who worked there. But Olof Fors is a little bit different due to the fact that they did have some villages in the nearby area, so people would have their permanent homes in the villages and they would come here to work and then were able to go back home for the weekend or during the holidays. Now I will show you their lodgings in a minute, but this is a ice cream stand. They have a cafe as you enter, so you could have some lunch here as well, and the ice cream stand, as you can see, is open Tuesday to Sunday 10 to 4 and on Thursday between 10 and 8. Now these are red currants. Now in Sweden we have something called Jantelagen. Now it means that if the berries are over a fence on a public property, you can pick the berries and eat them, but if they're on somebody's private property, then you're not allowed. Now these ones that I'm showing you now are the different lodgings that they built for the workers here, and this place is where all the trading was done, so their little shop. So now it's like a museum. It was really interesting. They had a lot of original features in the building, like this pump. Let's take you in and show you around. They had this little setup, which I'm assuming was what their lodging probably looked like. I'm not sure whether for the people working in the iron mill or the staff around looking after the shops and things like that, but it was nevertheless really interesting to see some of this old sort of Swedish culture. Once we were done looking inside, we decided to make our way to lunch. We were going to go to the manor house, which is called Herrgård here in Sweden. This is just some of the scenery that we had along the way. So we had to walk down here and then make our way to the manor house. So now we headed into the manor house, and as you can see, it is a lot more opulent for that time. The owner of the ironworks would have lived here, obviously, but now they use it as a restaurant. Then it was time for us to eat. Now the buffet was quite simple, but it was really enough, I thought. There were 3 different types of herring, pickled herring, which is very traditional to Swedish food, and then they had a salad buffet. So now if you were a vegetarian, they did have a variety of salads to choose from, which I thought was really good option. They also had a chickpea salad, which obviously gives a little bit more protein, and as you can see, some mushrooms as well. They did have a soup. The soup was a cauliflower soup, which was very nice, and they also had a beetroot and feta cheese dish. So that was really good because you had quite a lot for a vegetarian. The potatoes were 2 kinds. One was roasted and that one was dill. The dill one is usually for your sill and your fish, and then they had a meat dish, a pork dish, which I thought was a little overcooked, and then they had a chicken dish. So a lot to choose from, and yes, I didn't film, but they had also a fish dish to choose from. So once we've eaten our food and we were full, we started roaming around the area again. We came across a sort of second-hand store. It is probably not as cheap as your ordinary second-hand store, but it was nevertheless fun to go in and have a look. Now I'm going to do a video on thrifting up in the north of Sweden, so I'm not showing you a lot of what the shop looked like, but this was one of the antique horses outside, which I thought was really cute. So don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and join me next week when I do my thrift video up in the north of Sweden. And then we walked through, making our way to our car. It was such a beautiful walk. It's such a lot of beautiful scenery, lot of water. It really was a very, very pretty place to visit. If you wanted to walk, there were lots of areas for kids to play in, and obviously, like I said, you had the manor house for a proper lunch, and then you had the cafe. Now, in my opinion, the manor house lunch was obviously more worth it than the cafe, because I think the prices were pretty similar, but it's up to you once you head there if you are interested in what you're interested in eating. So going across this bridge, you found these beams. Now, I don't really know what they are called. I'm sure there's a specific name, but what I understand is that these dropped down to stop the flow of the water, as you can see this going underneath, and redirect the water into this sort of box that would pull the water into the mill, obviously, to get everything working. You can see it here. I'm sorry I didn't get quite a good shot of it, but as you can see here, this is the box. So the water would go through this and into the building attached to it, and then obviously they were able to work the machines and get their work done. So the water flow and this contraption was a really, really important part of the ironworks. And as you can see, this is what you would get at the cafe. So you'd get your sandwiches, which is very typical Swedish food that you get at cafes, and then obviously these are all the sweets that you get in Sweden. You can't come to Sweden and not eat the sweets. We have a tradition here that's called fika, which means you have a baked goods, and it's never a savory thing. It's always something sweet. So after we had our ice cream and we visited the cafe and had our fika, it was time to head back home. So if you're interested in visiting Olof Fors, I will have a link in the description box below. So I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me on this mini tour of Olof Fors in Nordmaling in Sweden, Scandinavia. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.